Apologies, the table's a little mess up today. The show's about to begin, and I do want to just want to thank everybody for the huge support that this has come a long time, over 7 years, 750 plus shows, and today's the day now. We are going to be recording a very special show based off the theme, what keeps you up at night. I was fortunate enough to get a panel of 4 very distinguished gentlemen of construction. Warren Hyde, Hydronics Plumbing, educator, consultant. John Le Blancq, Historic Building Co., overall gentleman of construction and knows his stuff regarding woodworking and tradition. He's just a wealth of knowledge. Jim Caruk, master builder, and Bob Peel, happy boss now. He's consulting. He's doing a lot of consulting and navigating. He's helping me out. And anybody who's interested in having some sort of guidance, Bob is the person to reach out to. And so I'm excited about having this conversation with them. We're opening up all the questions to the guests that are there. I'm going to have some questions, but the majority of it is I'm throwing it over to them for the crowd. And I do want to shout out a few things. First of all, Whitecap Canada, huge supporter of TCL. They've always been there. Great conversations with them. They've educated me on so many things. So they're a sponsor of this particular show and other past shows. We recently did a safety show that blew my mind. They taught us a lot about all kinds of different safety aspects, harness and helmets and gloves, everything. It's important to pay attention to these things. And they take care of you. Reach out to them, go into one of their stores. They will take care of you. I also want to give a shout out to Mateo over at UBuild. We recently did a show back in the 681, I think it was. I'm fascinated by what he's been building. He's been around for a few years. I remember when it was just beginning, and I'm a huge supporter of UBuild and what he's doing. He's going to be at the event there as well. Looking forward to the interaction with the young trades and the old trades to see what can help you. Basically that's just bottom line. And then we also got Job Table there. You've heard them on the show several times. I'm a huge fan of the 3 gents of Job Table. So thanks so much for being a part of this and sharing what you guys are doing. You're making our lives easier, a lot less paper, and making things very convenient. So thank you very much. Contract App. Taylor, he's been a huge fan of the show since day one. I liked what he had to say when he reached out to me. We did a show and I was impressed with what he was doing. So he's going to be there as well. The new kid on the block, basically. Yeah, Taj, man, with Photograph. I like what he's doing. He's just getting started and we did a show. Haven't posted it yet. I'm going to post it soon. I was very impressed with what he's doing and wait till you guys see what he's got planning. He's also going to share some new news on the show today at the event. And I still want to give a nice shout out to the Valve Man, Thomas himself from Dahl. Dahl Valves have been a huge supporter of my show for a very long time. We did the 2 roundtables. They supported the 500 event. Thank you very much, Thomas. I really appreciate it. And also we have Boris from Leathertown Lumber having some great conversations. So he stopped by and he's gonna stop by and hang out for a little bit. And he dropped off some aprons for some of you guys. So, and also a bunch of carpenter's pencils. Lots of gifts in the gift bag there. So don't forget to leave with the gift bag. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to Adele over at Work and Wear. Guys, I've been a fan of Work and Wear since day one, since I met him. Snickers, connection, all that stuff. He's the guy to go to when you want to get your stuff. That's it. He's got everything regarding all the gear that you need. Work and Wear. Look them up. It's 3 shout outs to some donors of great quality things, right? So I've got Bob over at Complete Equipment, grateful enough to give us a 2 drill set from DeWalt. Brand new in the box. Some lucky guest is going to receive that one. And then Tony over at Saga Tools, thank you very much. He gave away a Bosch drill, so someone's going to get that one. And then Mike Huber, the machine. He was so nice to create 3 of his classic walnut cutting boards. So we're going to give out those 3 to 3 lucky attendees. And I appreciate it, Mike, for doing that. I really thank you so much for doing that. We got swag bags. Everyone's going to get this 750 t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, and it fits comfortable, and I want to give a shout out to Ben there. Ben's my guy at We Thrones. He takes care of all my swag. The gift bag you're getting, these tees, he's done my labels, my stickers, he's done everything. This is the guy to go to when you need some swag. So thank you very much, Ben, for taking care of that stuff. There's no song, but then I had this idea. Why don't I just give this a try and see if this works, man? So you got to start it off by saying, dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 Dan, dan, dan. Rising up, back on the site. Took my time, took my chances. Went the distance, now I'm back on my feet. Just a man and his mic and his vision. So many times it happens so fast. You trade pride for a paycheck. Don't lose your grip on the dreams of the past. You fight to keep building respect. It's the eye of the grinder. It's the thrill of the trades. Rising up to the challenge of our rivals. Went from hammers to headsets, and the passion still stays. For the 750th time, it's the construction life. When did we get bleachers? You got a room full of tradespeople, they'll build something, eh? So what's going on? You can almost hear it? So bring it up a little bit. I don't think we're getting the feedback as the radio signal. Fuck. I haven't been an AV tech since grade 9. What year was that? 1988. Who was born after 88? Put your hands up. Fuck! I got belts and boots and cars older than you people, man. Okay, we're still recording, right? We're good. So I'm just going to float around, and I apologize if I block your view, right? So, Bob, we're good? We got water, everybody's good? Okay, guys, I want to start off with just a short, brief introduction of each other. Just give us a little lowdown, some key highlights. We'll start with you, Orrin.
Hey guys, if we can just keep it down, please, thanks.
We're rocking and rolling, we're rolling.
Okay, Manny, good afternoon. I'm Warren Hyde with Westell Enterprises, which is my own business. I've been in the trade over 40 years as a plumber, and I work for a family business. We did plumbing, septics, wells, hot water heating, forced air heating. Also, I've been a plumbing inspector twice in my career. I also taught at Mohawk College for 22 years. And I've got my own plumbing and hydronics business. I'm not really on the tools now. I do mainly a lot of industry training. And then I've got a hydronics course that I have, a 240-hour course that I teach out in industry. And then UA 67 has contracted me, and I do night school teaching for them as well, a 120-hour hydronics course that I teach. And then UA 67 and Mohawk College both contract me to teach CFQ prep for plumbing, and then I do a lot of tutoring through my own business for CFQ prep and just apprentices as they're going through trade school. I do tutoring for them as well.
That's great. I just got a quick question, Warren. What do you think about heat recovery stacks? John? Inside joke, inside Instagram joke.
Yes, you talked about that before, didn't you, online, yeah?
Well, Warren and I see eye to eye. I didn't know that much. So.
Does this thing work? Yes, okay.
Nice and loud, nice and loud.
All right, well, I'm coming off like 10, 20-hour days and I have half a voice, so that's...
I appreciate it, John.
But there was free food, so we came. At any rate, I'm John Le Blancq. I continue in my father's firm. He founded in 1946 yacht building in Kingston. And I grew up a yacht builder, and I learned naval architecture and the refinements of design. I maintain the family woodworking business as well, and there's nothing we don't reproduce. It's not idle words. I've worked everything from Parliament to the Vice-Regal residence, Rideau Hall, all kinds of things. I do work for the Samuels at the ROM, and I love woodwork, and that's what I do. I design homes, build them, and only if I can provide the interiors. That's my passion. Very niche, and it's fun. And you gotta have fun in life. It's not about making money. Just gotta have bloody fun. You know, as long as there's enough for cigars and champagne, you're good. That's it. Oh, and boats, of course, yes. You've been on the boat, you know.
I love the boat.
That's the other mistress.
Thanks very much, John.
Brilliant. My name's Jim Caruk, and I've been in the trade, or in the business now, 52 years.
Good.
1973 I started as a HVAC, sheet metal. I didn't get my hands all ripped to rat shit from the using the sheet metal and all that. Was in the trade for 15 years, and then decided that I wanted to do a little more than bang tin, and got my master's in HVAC. Didn't start a business in HVAC. Then I got into contracting. Started out small like everyone else, you know, doing the fences, the decks, and everything else. And then how I really got my start, I guess, was luck, I'd say. 89, 90, when a real recession hit. I had already got married, had a kid, got a mortgage, and then quit my job to go on my own. A year later, everything went sideways, and I'm sitting at home looking for something to do, you know, another deck or anything, just to, you know, put some food on the table. Luckily, my brother-in-law was president of YTV at the time, started it, and he called me up and said, "Hey, Jimmy, okay, do you want to build an office or two?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So I get down there. Remember, I'm just starting out. So he says, "Well, I need an office. I need a boardroom. Have you ever built a studio?" I go, "No." And then it was a cafeteria, and then the whole thing just spun out into this big thing. I hired the right architect, and that's pretty much what helped my career get going. And then you know, the '90s ended up doing Life Network. If anybody remembers that, probably not.
Yeah.
Right? The old TSN building, got to do that, and then what's the other one? Toronto. What was it? The film festival? No. Anyways.
TIFF?
And then the big thing in 2000, I was doing a job, which was a pretty shitty job. Client wasn't real happy. You know, I said it would take 5 months. It took 9 months. And after it was all said and done, we finished. We shook hands. She says to me, "Is this what renovations are like all the time?" And I said, "No, you were special." And she goes, "I'm a producer." She goes, "I think this stuff people should know what they're getting themselves into." And I said, "Sure." I said, "I agree with you 100%. She goes, "Are you up for it?" I go, "Yep." So they came in at that time, 25 years ago, came in with a little video camera. I think we shot like 10 minutes, took it to, who was it, Barb Williams at the time at HGTV?
Yeah.
Showed her. She said, "Okay, this is great. Let's do this." And that's how Real Renos got going. We did that for 7 seasons.
What was that? Was it started at 99? No. When did you start?
I think we shot 2000. We aired 2001, and then we did it for 5 years. Took 2 years off. Came back for 2 more seasons, and then that was it.
And it was inspiring to many people.
Oh, thank you.
Very many people. I think you're a pioneer there.
And then Mike and the other boys came along later. So, but now that ended 15 years ago, and I'm still in the business. I'm going to be 70 this summer. It's old. But I don't know what else to do. I'm not ready to back it in and hang them up yet, and I'm going to keep going. That's all I can say.
How young are you again?
That young?
How young? How young are you? I was going to ask all you gentlemen, how young are you guys? Just share your age. Come on, I'm 53. Share your age.
69.
John?
65.
Lauren?
63.
Bob?
65.
Rock and roll. Yes. Yes. Our last guest is Bob Peel.
All right. So I approach this from a different point of view because I was on the supplier side. My dad is the guy that started Brafasco. And he started in my grandmother's living room in Malton on the coffee table. So, you know, we have pretty modest beginnings, and now it's part of Whitecap. So it's an interesting journey. I started out working in a greenhouse when I was 10. I wanted a mini bike. And I made $1 an hour, and, do the math, 1970. After a couple of years in the greenhouse, we moved. I got a job in my dad's warehouse, which, you wonder about nepotism, but an interesting thing occurred to me there is that I was the youngest guy in the place, but my dad had a partner with a bit of a temper, and nobody would sign in the shipments after 4 o'clock. They gave those to me. And so very early on, I took on the paperwork side of the warehouse for an hour each day when the supervisor went home. And I never thought it was a real big deal. And a life lesson there is start early so that more things are less of a big deal. At 15, I started working on a local farm. They needed some, unsuspecting labor. I did a lot of haying. I bought another mini bike. At 17, I went to Europe for 4 months and backpacked. And my year had come crashing down because I'd actually got ahead of myself in school, and I successfully failed all 3 maths in grade 13. So I thought I'd be a veterinarian, actually, with the background that I had, but grade 12 chemistry and I didn't agree very well. So I went to Europe just to hide from everything, and visiting probably a dozen countries, I came back with a different sort of confidence. Went back on that farm. I worked there for about 8 more months. And in the meantime, my dad brought home a kit of nuts and bolts and said, "You could sell these." And I said, "The last thing I want to be on the planet is a salesperson." How'd that turn out? I went from farm to farm in the Orangeville area in my 67 Firebird with 3 of these kits in the trunk. And I started selling 1 an hour, about every 3rd farm. And I was making, minimum wage or less being self-employed, making $4 an hour on the farm, but I was making $20 a kit. So I quit my job on the farm and I started my own business in 78 at 18. I met Janice at 19, got married at 20, first kid at 21. At 22, Janice was pregnant again. I got invited to be president of a local chamber of commerce in Orangeville. That allowed me to learn from the older generation that sits around a boardroom table in a chamber of commerce. That was helpful. And this is one of the reasons why I applaud Manny in what he's doing here. Bringing together 3 generations like this, learn from us older guys. We only got so much time left that we're active and we have the interest, but we want to share. And that's the thing that attracted me to Manny's whole premise of the construction life right from the start. I've always been learning from the people more experienced than me. That's how it happens. So my business, what was coincidental was, I got married at 20. We buy an old house that needs renovations, top to bottom. It's got no insulation. It's got knob and tube wiring. So I would quiz my customers who were contractors, and I'd bring out a notepad and I would sketch something out, and I'd say, "How would you do this job?" And by the end of the week, I had 5 contractors' opinions, at least, on how to do the job. Many of the things I built literally 45 years ago are still standing. The fence is still standing. The gate's still there because I learned from the contractors. Fast forward, at 27, I've got 3 kids. My dad's partner comes to me and says, "We want to merge your company with ours and become, instead of Brampton Fastener Company, we want to become Brafasco." And so I did that. I got a chance to do some amazing things. I've never worked a day in my life. I just had a ball. I got to do TV and radio commercials. I got to do all the leases on 25 locations. I did a lot of the hiring. And most fun of all was meeting with the trades. I've always felt that the trades were diminished when the computers came along because everyone said, "Oh, well, let's clean this up and everybody go get a degree and everybody, tap away on a keyboard." But how the hell does anything get done if there's no trades? Right. So I applaud the premise, and I love that you guys are here in numbers. This is a big deal. And my job at Brafasco, I just had the best job in the world. We eventually sold it to Home Depot, and they sold it to someone who sold it to Whitecap. I've been gainfully unemployed since. I coach small businesses. I've coached about 270. I focus on their interaction with their customer. I worry about customer service. I worry about making it easy to be your customer. And if there's anything that drives my evaluation of my own experiences is, wow, this place has never tried to phone into their own store. And this place has never tried to be a customer. In this place, the owners, the managers should be sitting there watching the transactions and watching, chase a customer out to the parking lot. I used to do it. How was that? I noticed you had a problem. Or, I sampled the hell out of things like Tapcons and things in the early days and said, go try these. Easy anchors. We were one of the first ones to bring easy anchors in. And we definitely wanted our customers to buy in, become raving fans, and then we tried to get the younger people in our stores to learn from that and do it again. So,
when it comes to job site safety, Whitecap Canada covers it all. From fall rescue plans and the right harnesses, trauma straps, and lanyards to inspections that keep your gear ready when it matters most. Need to protect your hands, your head, your hearing? Whitecap's got you with the gear, the guidance, and the real-world know-how to keep your crew safe and productive. Visit them at www.whitecapsupply.com, follow them on social media at Whitecap Supply, or reach out at canadianservice@whitecap.com. Whitecap, built for safety, ready for work. This message is proudly supported by the Construction Life.
that's a bit of a background.
That's great. It's perfect. I'm going to open it up, guys. Anybody got a question? Anybody got a question to start off with?
Anybody got a question?
Yeah, I just have a really quick question. I just wanted to ask, thank you so much for sharing what you did. What would be the best way for any of us that wanted to learn from gentlemen such as yourself and kind of not borrow, but copy, cheat, steal from the vast experience that you guys have so we can implement and kind of not reinvent the wheel, if that makes sense? The best way to learn from you guys would be?
Anybody jump in.
And first, I'll just jump in first for the ones on the tools.
The mic. Yep.
Yep. I'll just jump in first for the ones that are on the tools. Kind of like what Bob was saying. So I grew up on a farm, and the plumbing business I worked for was a mile down the road. Again, being a young fellow, so especially on a Friday night, you want to get home, do chores, and go out and howl with your friends. And there was one of the fellows that worked. He was a cousin of the owner. I always said 65 years old, he was the smartest man I ever knew, didn't even have a grade 9 education. His specialty, he did all our service work, and it was mainly pumps, wells, boilers, hot water heating, etc. And there'd be sometimes on a Friday, and we'd get back to the shop around 6 o'clock, and all I wanted to do was get out of there. And Murray would always say, Warren, I learned something today I hadn't seen before if you got a minute. And as much as I wanted to get the heck out of there, I would always say, yeah, and he did teach me so much. I can still troubleshoot pumps over the phone by just a pressure gauge. There's so much stuff that I can't explain to you, but I could show you if we're working together. But one of the things that always stuck with me, and I pass this on, he always said, install anything like you're going to service it at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. And for some of myself on the mechanical side, suddenly unions, isolation valves, etc. I'm not sure many people here know anything about jet pumps, but in order to pop the end bell off of a jet pump to change a capacitor, which is a 2-minute job, if someone puts a pump in and they're only that far off the end of a wall, and there's no unions, isolation valves, and so the bolts on the jet pump cover the end bell are this long. And I did have one, and I relate the story all the time, and it was literally about 3 or 4 o'clock. I got there on an afternoon, change a capacitor, no problem. Go in, whoever put the pump in, it was right against the wall, galvanized piping, no unions. If anyone knows anything about pumps, long story short, by the time I cut everything apart, put iron down the well twice, had to find the well because there was no well chambers back then, dig the well. I was probably 5-6 hours just for a 5-minute job. So that's one of the things is and everybody, those are on sales, those are in design, and ever ask questions of the people you're working with. So from my side, for someone on the tools, pick our brains because we're glad to share. And as Bob says, we're not here around forever. But yeah, there's a lot of shortcuts. There's a lot of, I was telling Aaron, I was helping someone troubleshoot a hydronics job yesterday, and I was able to figure it out just because of my background history, and I'm a little long in the tooth, but I'm going to be sharing that with Aaron's guys next Thursday, Friday when I'm doing their training. But that's what's going to make you a better tradesperson. That's what's going to help you out in the job. That's what's going to make people want to call you over somebody else.
Any other thoughts, John? Mateo's got a question?
I think like the same thing, just like pick our brains. I mean, if there's, if you got the older tradesmen on your site, definitely just, work them what you can get out of them.
Ask questions.
And just ask constantly. Like there's so much new technology out there, you're going to know more than what we know, but there are still some of the old ways that will never change that I think we can help you with not only the trade itself, but also business, getting in business, loyalty to your trades, loyalty to your builders, right? Which I think that is probably one of the bigger things that you need to possibly work on. And
Loyalty.
I'm not shitting on the younger generation, but I mean, you guys, everything's texting, emails, everything else. Ours back, we didn't have that. It was eye to eye, shake a hand, and away you would go. I think the more you get back to that, you're going to have a lot more loyalty. You're going to have a lot more, you'll get more business. No, that's just, that's my take on it right now anyway.
And you've asked a very general question, so I'm going to give you a general answer. Past experience carries with its advantages the drawback that things never happen the same way again. Otherwise, I suppose life would be too easy. There's a tendency to treat it like Boy Scout badges. You master one job and you think, oh great, I've done that. I know how to do that now. But just like your pump situation, you find things that aren't the way they should be. So you never, ever, ever can feel that you've done that, you know it. Because how many times have we been blindsided, all of us?
Still?
Blindsided still, every day. So you just keep an open mind, that's the key. Never ever think that it's just going to be easy, that's cookie cutter, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be perfect, whatever. Keep an open mind. Past experience is a guide. It doesn't mean it is the way forward. It's a compass, but it's not going to get you to the destination. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Oh,
Does.
there you go.
Mateo?
Thank you. Just kind of segueing, Jim, from your point about technology is rapidly changing the industry. People are adopting it rapidly. Part of it's bringing the industry into the future, but I guess the question for myself is, how do we honor the traditions and the relationships and the way that things have always been done in the past, and make sense of that in the modern context of building this technology? And so the question for you is, how can we make sure that we keep that in person, that humanity in construction as the world evolves and technology advances?
I think it's, I don't know, simple. It's just like pick up the phone, have the phone call. It sounds, simple, but it's the human side, right? And, I have a partner, had a partner. We had a great run for 8 years, but there's a 20-year difference between us. And just to give you an example, like he would send out a quote, email it, and really not have too much else to say about it, right? Send it out, and he'd follow up. But he always said to me, he goes, Jim, how did that phone call work out the other day? I said, great. He goes, how long did you talk to him for? I said, I don't know, 2.5 hours. And he goes, what do you talk about? I said, well, first of all, I don't talk about the job for at least the first 45 minutes to an hour. I want to know who you are, want them to get to know me, so that you're asking people to spend a ton of money nowadays, right? Who knows, a couple hundred, million, whatever you're asking them to spend, they need to trust you. the only way they're going to trust you is by talking to them. And then, if you're lucky enough to go and meet them and sit down at the table with them, that's even better, because then it's eye-to-eye contact, right? So I think that's what I mean, about, just being a little more personal. And I don't see why there's any reason why you can't do that. I mean, sure, you text, you email, and you do all that, get that stuff for sure. But when it comes, if you can get in the door and sit down with them at the table, I think you got half the battle, if not more, done.
I'm just curious, show of hands, who likes to hide behind technology and just do deals with emails or DMs or texts versus, let me see your hands, who likes doing that?
Be honest.
Be honest. Who likes to communicate with the client regarding any job portion through technology? 50-50?
Yeah, for the purpose of protecting yourself legally, because I find a lot of people these days can have leverage over you if you don't have it well documented. So I think that's the advantage to setting,
So I'll just repeat it because there's no way I'm going to pick it up on the mic. That's because my mic guy is over there, right? So if the mic guy was over there, it'd be a different story. But mic guy is going to get replaced soon. That's all I'm saying.
Excuse me, he had the next question.
I saw a hand over here. So I just wanted to know. So you're saying the rest of you guys prefer doing it the way these gentlemen do it? You guys like the personal? Just speak up loud, really loud.
I'm coming on.
I will talk to you. I will do the eye to eye. But the following day, I will be like, ask for a conversation and follow up with an email. Because people tend to change their story all the time. You can talk to somebody today and then tomorrow is a different story. So I like to do a follow-up, ask for email, ask for a conversation, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right? So, but yes, I will do 100% the conversation first, get to feel you out, you get to feel me out, and then follow up with an email.
Right, and I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying, once if you can get in front of them, and you do, you're obviously right. Like you follow up with an email later after the conversation, right? Yeah.
But it's absolutely imperative to have that face-to-face, because how many jobs have you walked into and you're generally dealing with the housewife or something, and then the husband takes an instant dislike to you, and it's just, so everything goes to hell. I mean, it's true. It's happened so many times, and so the whole thing falls apart. It's imperative to have that face-to-face as much as you can. Yes, answer an email, how much is, 8-inch baseboard, whatever, get it. But after that, have that meeting. And you said it very well. I mean, face to face. Chase them into the parking lot, right? You didn't buy anything.
Okay, we got a question over here.
I'm just going to interject and introduce myself. I actually developed a platform called Contract App that enables either the client or even the service provider to create a legally binding contract for their service. So instead of relying on just a handshake agreement, which could go wrong, or just relating on just an estimate, there could be change orders, all sorts of things that could go awry. Contract App can create create a contract for the client and the service provider with ease, making sure that everything's transparent and accountable.
Yeah, and I've done a show with him, so I just forgot to mention him earlier because I got a lot going on in the hamster wheel right now. So.
Manny, can I just, if I can just bring in a different viewpoint between the new and old technology, and a classic example. My son-in-law has his own plumbing business. I don't have my gas fitters ticket anymore, my cross connection ticket. I let them go. But I always tease Tyler, I said, do not ask me to go out there and service one of the new shower valves or one of the new ModCom boilers, because I haven't a clue. If you're not doing it every day, you're not up with the new technology. But he still calls me weekly because he's got a problem, and it comes down to the basic science and troubleshooting. And a classic example is on Tuesday, 25 of us are going to Grundfos. I've set up training for 6 companies. We're going to go. So we're up on the latest technology of the pumps, etc. That is the latest technology. But if you don't understand that if you put that pump pumping into the thermostatic mixing valve, the system is screwed. If you don't understand that a pump still has to create a pressure drop, your system's not going to operate. So from the tool side of things, there's the idea of the old technology and the new. The new equipment, the new technology, you've got to keep up on. But if you don't understand the sciences and the basic physics of either plumbing or hydronics, that new technology is not going to help you.
Where are the hands? Where are the hands?
Am I allowed to ask a second question?
Sure, of course you.
So, sorry, just another question while I have you guys. Is there a piece of advice that you felt that helped you throughout your career, which is a piece of advice that you would still share till today, that you think would be extremely effective? I know it's hard, but like one piece of advice, but just something that you generally have in the back of your mind that you seem to be extremely effective in the industry that we're in?
Bob?
So I can go on that. I have two things to offer here. I used to tell my kids, I said, do a job so well that when somebody looks at it, they go, I know one guy who could have done this. And when they see a job poorly done, they would look at it and go, no, that's not the quality of their work. Something else happened. And that was a piece of advice that passed on to me by somewhere, but it's been good advice. And the other thing is, make it easy to be your customer. And I can't stress this enough, especially on the supplier side, but phone into your own business. Send an email into your own business and see what happens. See how your customers are being treated. It's a real big deal. I just drove out to Kelowna last week and flew home on Thursday, and I've got endless examples. I take pictures of bad signage. It seems to be a curse or a hobby. But I also collect stories. I collect stories of excellent service, and I collect stories of mediocre service where they mailed it in. And if these businesses would just phone into their own business or show up in a multi-branch business incognito and just try to be served, they would find that they're not doing the job they think they're doing. And what they used to do at one level, their employees aren't doing it. And so for advice, I see a lot of nodding heads, I'm sorry. You've all had bad service experiences. I used to ask my staff, I used to go around to every single branch every single month, and my staff was young guys, some young ladies, and it was getting to about 20% maybe by the time I left. And I would just ask one question, real simple. When was the last time and place where you got excellent customer service? And the room would go silent. I then would start in on a definition of what I thought good customer service was. Still crickets. What I eventually would draw out to people is the only place they get good customer service is when they're paying through the nose for a special meal in a nice restaurant. It seems to be the one place where we focus, and it's tip-based. You know, think about that. My staff, I used to catch them all the time, that they treated people they knew really well, but strangers they didn't give a break to. Sometimes you got to go first. You know, sometimes you just got to be a good person all the time yourself, and then you will attract. And then to the point that you guys are making here, I think there must be a magic ratio. I don't know what it is, but let's say it's 1 in 5. You should have one in-person, face-to-face meeting for every 5 times you touch them with technology. Right? Once you've built the relationship, you can use all the tools of communication. We have more tools of communication, arguably, than ever before, and less communication. It's infuriating.
Less meaningful communication.
Right, but I also agree with the point that you have to build a legal case in case something goes sideways. And I feel sorry for anyone that has a crappy customer. We've all had crappy customers. And you do have to document. There has to be a paper trail. So I like the idea here that you know, make a phone call, follow up the next day with an email, and summarize what the phone call was all about. It didn't take any longer than texting them and hiding from it, you know, and then you're more likely to be successful. But I really spend a lot of time telling people to try to be their own customer. Just see what that's like. And you know, if you've got a couple crews on the road, you'll have a weak crew, and maybe you need to follow up with them a little bit more. Anyway, that's a couple thoughts.
Oh, that's all true.
Question.
My dad gave me 2. One was nobody owes you a living. And I've always had jobs.
Say that again, Warren, sorry? Just say that again.
Nobody owes you a living. And the second one was put your hand in a bucket of water, pull it out the size of the hole you're leaving, is how important you are. And that was 2 pieces of advice he was telling me since I was about 8 years old.
And speaking to your tip-based scenario, we should treat every job, and that's, certainly we do at this age. But your tips are the referrals. That's it. You know, you lose money, just get them happy, whatever, because you know what? There's a referral. Now, some people you cannot please, and Reno Rabbit, you're young enough to, you probably had some bad customers, I don't know, but there's many decades ahead. But some people you cannot please, fire them. I have walked away from clients over the years because they refuse to be pleased, they don't know what they want, and it changes with every issue of Canadian House and Home or Architectural Digest, their tastes change. You cannot please them, get rid of them. That's important too. But 99% of the clients, they just want a good job. And they want, I do find you have to over-deliver, and I'm bad at that. I'll bankrupt myself sometimes on jobs for my happiness. Because at the end of the day, you know what? My name's going to be in the history books. Not braggartly, I just mean, I know that it's what I've done on national sites and historic sites. That's my contribution, my legacy. Because you can't take it with you. Nope. You know, we'll bury you in the Mercedes. There you go. At least you'll get a good drive there. But no, at some point you do have to have heart in it, and but not every customer is right. That's so important. Right? No.
Are you tired of wasting time on unqualified job board applicants? Meet UBuild, the construction industry's hiring solution built by builders for builders. With UBuild, you can hire, manage, and pay skilled workers all in one place. Cut your recruiting costs by 80% and your hiring time by 90%. From laborers to project managers, UBuild connects you with the verified pros to keep your job sites moving. Visit them at www.ubuildapp.com and use promo code TheConstructionLife to save $100 on your first booking. Follow them on social media at ubuild.ai or email them at mateo@ubuild.ai to learn more. UBuild. Work smarter, build faster. This message is proudly supported by The Construction Life.
Yeah, kind of just on your note there, know your worth.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, God, yeah.
Like when you're sitting at the table and, you know, you can hear them balking and everything else. I mean, there's a number in your head. You know, just if it's not working for them, just say very politely, thank you, you know, thanks for the opportunity, and get up and go. Like, you have to know your worth and know when to draw the line, right? And I can tell you, they're testing you. And I've done it a few times where I've just said, okay, you know what, fine, there's no way I'm dropping 20 grand or whatever you want me to do. I can't do it. I can't, if I do that, I can't do the job that I should do for you, right? And you get up and leave. I can tell you, like 65, 75% of the time, you get the phone call tomorrow, right? You know what? Oh, can you come back to the table? So, yeah, I mean, if I can give you any advice, that was just know your worth when you're sitting at the table.
Okay. Thank you guys for coming. That's really great. My name is Brian Kudo. All right. Quick question. I've been in construction since 1999, and you guys have been in it as well, way longer than me. But is there something? This is probably a question for all of you. Is there something, because of the new technology and the way that the trades are going, is there things that we should embrace that's going to help us? And is there things we should watch out for going on in the future? And you could say one thing that you think is good, or one thing that's, you know, that you think we should watch out for.
So I can start on that. I live and breathe this all the time. I tell people, as soon as I bought a cell phone, I acknowledge it's old. And as every software piece I've ever installed, over time, I'm behind on that too. I spend my time learning about people, study people. I can keep up with evolution. I can't keep up with revolution. It's much easier to stare at somebody in the eye and know if they're telling you the truth. No technology is going to do that for you. There might be a retina scan someday, but not now. I will also say this, and it's an interesting, to me, observation, but there are two things that are major that have happened in the last 20 years. One is the celebration of the entrepreneur. right? So we get support in a way we've never gotten support with Jim's show and Mike Holmes and the Dragon's Den in particular. We celebrate an entrepreneur in a way we never did. I mean, I don't think anyone could spell it prior to 1990. It was just one of those things that going to business for yourself was to be an instant boss, and people thought, well, you've got money now because you just spend all your money on business cards. But the other aspect of this is that when you're trying to build your business and you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? Just do a good job. Do exactly what you said you would do and a little bit more. If you over-deliver, you never go
And that's
wrong.
ageless, when you're saying, there's nothing...
John, the mic, sorry.
There's
Yeah.
nothing new to look out for, really. That's just repeating...
Yeah, so study
ancient
human beings,
principles.
because we're an interesting creature, and we only want what we want, and we're pretty simple creatures, especially if you're dealing with the males in the audience. We're kind of binary. But technology and all the other stuff, here's what happens to me as well. I've been working the last 6 years with Queen's University. I also been president of another chamber of commerce that runs a Dragon's Den event. Everybody under the age of 35 right now is trying to turn everything onto their phone. Everything onto their phone. And not because it's better, because they just
It's
brought
lazy.
up with that tool.
I think it's lazy.
Well, but the world that everybody
Well, not
grew up
everything.
with,
Like even design now, AI stuff. Nobody designs things. They
right? So
tell them.
and that's the second
I hate
piece
that.
is they throw AI at it that AI is going to solve the problem. By the way, we went to old school mics. You might have noticed this is a
That's right,
miniature
yeah.
version. Why did we do that?
Well, the new technology didn't work, did it?
I ran out of cassette
That's right,
tapes.
yes.
Okay, I had a cassette tape player recorder right here. All right.
Yeah.
You know what? Come on, anybody got okay? I'm gonna
Well,
bring
these
it
are
up.
all great questions.
You got one? Okay, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Pete's been doing it forever. Yeah, sorry. He's been. No, go shoot.
Pete, I'll toss it to you when I'm done. I'm Mark from Caruk Construction. I've been on the podcast a few times. So my question for the panel is, so as an entrepreneur, businesses barely survive 5 years. Generally, you're successful if you can make it 10. So I was just wondering, for all you guys, because you've been in business for a very long time, when did you feel you were hitting your stride and being successful in your business? Was it age or was it years in the business?
It's a good one.
I think it's a never-ending journey. I really, there's no magic to me, at any rate. My experience. I grew up in a workshop filled with yacht builders and master carvers, and honest to God, I thought I could never do that. I was depressed. I started at 15, and it wasn't until I was 20, I guess, I realized I can do this, and you carry on. But ever since then, though, as I said, past experience carries with its advantages the drawback that things never happen the same way again. It's always up and down. There's never a magic number, I've made it, and it's great, because people change. Study people.
Families get used to it.
Exactly. So I don't think there's a magic time where, you've been in business 10 years and you're just going to coast now. No, because the market changes. I mean, Blockbuster Video, they had it made. And now they're no more in a heartbeat. No, but this is what I mean. You cannot ever rest on your laurels.
HDTV.
And you, dear man, talking about the software in modern home design and the pump, it's ridiculous. The principles haven't changed.
That's right.
Water goes downhill and uphill if you make it go that way. But it's physics.
Yep.
Those things don't change. But the software that controls it, that's different. So, yeah, I don't think there's a magic number because life is constant change. Does that make sense? Like there's no decade or magic number of when you've arrived and it's going to. I don't know.
So the follow-up would be, would you say that things remain hard, but you just got better?
You have to keep learning because everything changes. The product you get used to. We went through hell. We used Benjamin Moore oil paint for our furnishings and kitchen cabinets for like 40 years. And then, what was it, 2010, they went to the latexy,
Acrylic,
vegetable
latex.
oil
Yeah.
type stuff, the advanced paint. I think it's made of vegetable oil, advanced paint. They call it oil, but it's water cleanup. We went through hell to remaster what it takes to paint a high gloss raised panel kitchen, for example, because the paint changed. And that was after 40 years of doing it. It's ridiculous. So we went back to our old, what we do on yacht repair, just enamel. Enamel, 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 24-hour dry enamel. My point is, the market's going to change, technology's going to change. So you just have to keep learning and keep an open mind. I said that before.
I agree, but I also think, it's kind of that 5-year, like you were saying, it's that 5-year mark. If you get past it, you're kind of over the hump, hopefully. But then I think it's once you get to a point there, and there's going to be up years, down years, whatever it is. But I think it's also your confidence level, where you're at in your head, right? That's true. You do a good job. You're good at what you do. You can't do anything about what the economy's doing, and then you do what you have to do to make ends meet. And then as things go again, I think it's just that and everything that you said, but also a confidence level that
confidence is everything.
You reach that it goes back to what I just said earlier, like know your worth. Like, I mean, when the economy's going to take a dip, you're going to have to work harder, and you're going to have to do jobs that you didn't want to do to stay alive, right? And you and I have talked about this many times. I find a recession gets rid of the riffraff.
Yes, it does.
It gets rid of the guys that really, have had a great, let's face it, we've had a 20-year run here. So a lot of you guys have not even been in a recession or a downturn. And there's, everybody's riding high. Everybody gets cocky. I'm not going to do that little bathroom job anymore. I'm going to build the house. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And as the times start to come, and they're here now. I mean, I'm already seeing it. I'm getting phone calls. And I've said to you before, I said, even I've been in the business so long, and sure, I've done the big jobs and everything else, but I'm getting calls for, a bathroom, a kitchen. I'm not throwing it away. It's not beneath me to do that. So I think, just don't get cocky. Understand that this all can, the bottom can drop out, and then you're going to have to, do the smaller stuff. Nothing's beneath you, especially in this business, right? I mean,
I had many years ago, speaking to what you're saying, a very wealthy road builder who died in 91. And he, as successful as he was in a road builder, pretty much a guaranteed income with government. But he always said, you're one job away from going broke. And that is very true. Somebody could bring you right down in a heartbeat. Like if it's, especially the bigger jobs. I've had 2 clients in my 45-year career drop dead. And I've been holding the bag. Drop dead on the job. And the widow doesn't want the place, and you're scrambling to try and do things. Life happens. There's no easy coast, I've made it, there you are. But also the market is important, as you mentioned. Like recessions happen. Manny, we discussed on the boat the horseshoe chap.
Yeah.
You can make the best horseshoes in the world. They can be fabulous, but if you're in downtown Toronto, you're not going to sell a lot of horseshoes. So you have to go to where the horses are and the King's Plate, etc. So there's also that. You might be the best stonemason. Why do you think I go from all over Ontario and Ottawa and everywhere? Because I like heritage woodwork and heritage architecture. I mean, I can't just sit around and wait for it to come to me. If you want to specialize or do something that's in your lane, so to speak, you have to go where it is. And know your market too, and you're not going to be the next Ellis Dawn or something, because you're not doing that. Does that make sense to you guys too? You got to know your market.
Yeah.
Because
we got a question over there.
Here we go. Sorry, dude. Hey, hello.
Hi, Lee. Pete, next here.
Hey, I'm Pete from Zebskier. So I just probably more for Bob there. I'm just wondering. So I got a product out there that's fairly new and above and beyond everything that's out there. And like he was just saying right now, know your market. I know my market. I know where I got to be, and I'm trying to be in all those places. What advice can you give me to, or any of us, to help push something like that, push something that's innovative, something that's different that nobody's really seen before, or sort of like, yeah, we don't really care, like, but you know it'll make the worker better, make the workplace better, and get more comfort out there.
So I can tell you this is my favorite space to play in. And it comes down to this. I've actually, when we sold the business, I'll just go back a little bit. In 2000, my dad died, and his partner wanted to retire. He was 7 years older than my dad. And so we were in the midst of doing a sale of the company. And, you know, my dad died in August, we closed in October. And suddenly I've got the responsibility of running the company, plus I'm managing my dad's estate and helping my mom and my brother and sister and my family pay our taxes and establish all the paperwork. And this, by the way, took us 5 years to pay the taxes and 7 years to wait in case there was an audit. So you think it's an easy thing, but it really is a lot of work. And in the meantime, I've got to have a life of my own. Now, one of the things I learned in there is the greatest enemy to your own personal wealth is your own family. You as a couple, two people, have 3 children, and suddenly you're in trouble. If you have 4 or 5 or 6, good luck, right? Because your math just doesn't work. You're going to have to work a little bit longer to keep them in this lifestyle to which they've become accustomed. The other thing I did,
You made them accustomed.
yes, you're your own enemy first and then your family.
That's right.
But the next piece of this is that I had to learn a whole bunch of things. The guy described it to me. He says, you spent 20, 30 years building up expertise and confidence. The day after you sell the company, you are a money manager for which you have not prepared. You have the confidence that now becomes arrogance, and he predicted that I would lose 30 to 50% while I did my own learning. He says, get some staff, get some expertise in your corner. That was a pretty important lesson. One of the things I did along the way was I became an angel investor, and I invested in 5 companies. 2 have gone bankrupt, 2 look like they're home runs, 2, I don't know. On one of the ones that went bankrupt, I had a real serious talk with this entrepreneur. She had a fantastic product. And I said, here's your problem. You grew up in Quebec. When you got an order from Quebec, you went, yay, I've got my own home territory. Then you're doing some orders in Kitchener-Waterloo. You're doing some in Toronto. Then you get one in the U.S. Hey, I've conquered the U.S. I said, from an angel investor point of view, but it's everybody, if you think about this, you establish a beachhead somewhere and win one market. The smart guys will look at it as a cookie cutter situation from that moment forward. They will see that you own that market within a 50-mile radius of a particular town, let's say, and they see that there's 100 other such opportunities in Canada and 1,000 more south of the border. They will take it the rest of the way. So you establish and win a market, and you win it solidly. And before you move on at all, I'm a big believer, I worked on the farm and the greenhouse, plant seeds every day, so you don't have to plant a lot any day.
That's right.
But win one beachhead so that you can prove to people what it looks like when it's successful. Until you have that model, everything's a guess, and it's fragile, and it can go away. So that's how I would introduce a product.
And a good analogy with the planting seeds, you can't be one man planting 1,000 acres.
No.
You better tend to what you can manage.
You sprinkle a handful
That's right.
every day.
So whatever your market is, just look at, is it Toronto? What is it? Is it?
North America, being honest.
Okay.
The thing is, it's a hard and firmly jacket.
So wouldn't you want to be in like dealerships like Brafasco or something to get something like that?
So, and I can tell you, even today, I've handed out 6 business cards, right? I'm planting seeds everywhere. I have no idea where to go. I've met the most interesting people who bring something to me offline later, and I would make that offer to anyone in this room. But it really is important to show in a very, think about this. If you're one person and you could go out and you could do 2 demos a day, how long before you run out of time? You know, and that's the classic dilemma, is that you spread yourself too thin for the resources you have available. And by the time you run out of money, it's too late to fix it. Take that seed capital as the most precious thing you have. Sample the hell out of it, maybe. Like when we sold to contractors brand new products like an Easy Anchor or some such, I took 5 contractors who I knew would use it and give me good feedback, and I gave them each a case. Gave it to them. Don't tell anybody. But the idea was, I wanted honest feedback from somebody who would give it to me. Right? And as soon as, and I took the stuff home, and I was telling someone, I used to buy plates of sheet metal, and I would take each batch of Tech screws as they showed up, and I would drill and put 2 sheets of sheet metal together in my garage. And then I used to buy concrete blocks, and I would drill holes in concrete blocks and test the concrete bits, make sure they were fine. I used the sheet metal for all the different high-speed drill bits that we had. It went through my little laboratory in my garage before it ever made it to the counter. So that's how you're going to do it. You get a couple raving fans and build from there.
Thank you so much. I deal with around like
I'm here, boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
and they love them, right?
Simplify your construction business. Are you buried under paperwork, chasing down payments, and struggling to stay organized on the job site? Stop wasting time on complicated software or old school spreadsheets. JobTable offers the simplest tool for contractors to manage their business. Send quotes and invoices in seconds. Schedule your team effortlessly. Track every job and payment in one place. Whether you're working solo or managing multiple crews, JobTable makes your business run smoother so you can focus on the work that matters. Try it free today at jobtable.com, the simplest way to grow your construction company. This message is proudly supported by the Construction Life.
Okay, we got a question.
Okay, next question.
Hi, I'm Mahir. My question would be is, looking back over your years in business, what is the one thing you wish you have done more of?
For those of you who can remember.
Personally, I have no regrets. And like you said, I've never worked a day in my life.
Yeah, I don't have any, too many regrets, but I'll say one thing: spend more time with your family.
Absolutely.
Because when you're starting out, you're working 7 days a week. And I had 2 little girls at the time, and you're working, and then all of a sudden they're teenagers, and that's gone, right? So it's a balance. It's a tough balance for sure. But yeah, that would be one thing if you have a family. If you don't have a family, then work your ass off. But if you do, you definitely have to make some time.
And love what you do, or don't do it. Simple as that. Or you'll be miserable.
So, but how do you continue loving what you're doing when you're not being paid for it and clients are...
Well, you make it pay. You find your niche, and you, whatever it may be, and you make it work. Simple as that.
So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that question? If you don't get paid for it, like, I don't think anybody's here is going to work for somebody that's not going to give them any money to pay them. So,
well, it happens though.
Yeah. Well, sure, but what is that actually?
Have all 4 of you guys been paid for all the services you ever provided over the years?
No. I've been robbed blind sometimes.
Actually, robbed blind.
That's what I mean
robbed
by
blind.
that.
I have worked for multimillionaires that had no intention of paying.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah, right from the beginning. I built a house on a reserve that I didn't get paid for because he had no intention of paying. But I didn't know that at the time.
You don't go in thinking that.
But whatever. It just happens. Not at all. No, because I go out and do what I like, because you have to like that. I don't know what I'd do if I didn't do this, right? What the hell would we do?
I don't know.
We agree to at Costco, we tell people to go to hell. I don't know.
Okay, we got a question here from Daniel.
Hey guys, how are you? My name's Daniel. When I did the podcast with Manny, I talked about old timers, old school guys wouldn't,
Looking at you.
wouldn't get the helping hand because they were always concerned about possibly having someone younger, someone take their job. I met you guys are doing a hell of a job, and we're listening to some great minds. Any regrets? And how did you separate family and business?
It's a great question.
You said it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Louder.
That's the only, yeah, I mean, it's just you have to, I mean, I didn't realize it at the time.
No, you don't.
You know, I was 30, like I said, 30, got married, had a kid, bought a house, had a mortgage, and then recession hits. So you do everything you can to feed your family. So, I mean, you're taking care of them, but you may not see them, right?
You mentioned that it's going through a recession, gets rid of the riffraffs. This will be my second recession, and I've noticed that seeing it and bearing witness to it, everyone's feeling the pinch. But you see that it's getting rid of the actual riffraff.
It is, yes.
Yeah, I mean, when, yeah, like 89, 90, 91, when it was, you know, really shitty. I mean, there were contractors that, you know, I looked up to and said, yeah, that's who I want to be like. I want to be like those guys, right? But they were the ones that wouldn't take the small stuff that I was talking about earlier, and they were gone. Like, they lost everything. So, yeah, I mean, it's, again, like I said, it's just, you know, it's a fine line with family and everything else, but.
And adapt to the market too. My father's dear friend made money in the Depression, Tommy Kidd, and Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Ashmore Kidd. He had a controlling interest in Redpath Sugar in the Depression, and he bought out his partners, and he kept buying because he knew damn well nobody was buying luxuries, but they're going to buy a 5-cent chocolate bar. He made more money in the Depression, and it's incredible. He knew his market, and that's important too. Not the big jobs, like you're saying.
No.
He wasn't buying, you know, oil and all that because people weren't driving. You know, he was buying sugar. So it's just a good analogy to know that to be humble, do the little bathroom jobs, whatever, because they're all worth, at the end of the day, you're probably making as much money, just not the percentage. Right? So what the hell? That's all it matters. But young people, I don't know about you, but we, you know, I think you and I are the same that way. We love young people. We surround ourselves with them. You can teach, plus we need their labor. Lift that.
And
but it's
that,
encouraging.
And that's, yeah, I mean, like I said, I started off, my brother-in-law, luckily, worked for YTV. That was during the recession. So that little job of going down, doing an office, I mean, that led me to, you know, like I said, then I ended up doing Life Network. Then I ended up, you know, doing a few more studios. And I never did a studio before. Like, I came on as, you know, I remember one of my buddies I went to school with, he became an acoustical engineer. So I phoned him up and I said, Terry, can you help me out here? You know, never done this before. He came in, helped me out. I presented to Dalton Engineering. They built YTV first. So 5 years later, they wanted to renovate it. Like I said, my brother-in-law happened to be the president. I had to go through the whole process. Hired the acoustic engineer, hired the architect. We laid out everything, you know, the carpet, this, that, like had all our boards and everything else. Had to go in front of the board. And, you know, I only know this because my brother-in-law sat on the board, and you know, we went in, pitched our thing. Everybody's yeah, great, okay. Out we went, and I said to Kevin, I said, you know, well, how did it go with Dalton? I mean, they're still around, right? I mean, they're big. Let's face it. And he goes, well, they came in. And it was the son at the time, so he had the $2,000 suit on and the whole thing, and he went and sat in there, and the whole board said, "Okay, well, what do you got for us?" Well, nothing. Why would I have anything? I built this 5 years ago. Why would I have to do it? Should just get the job.
That's right.
And they said, that's what you're coming in with? Said, yep. Well, obviously he didn't get the job, but there, just, it goes down to the cockiness, right, and everything else.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's
Hello, my name is David from Shelton. You guys have mentioned a few times the importance of customer service. Bob, as you scale Brafasco, Jim, you mentioned having 2.5-hour conversations on the phone. You can only have so many of those a day. So how do you maintain that level of customer service at scale when everyone wants to speak with the owner?
Prioritize, right?
Well, I mean, okay, so, I mean, in our business, if you're a contractor builder, you're not going to have to talk to that many people a day, right? I mean, we're going to get, drawings in from architects, this, that, everything. Then you got a feeling on the phone when you finally, speak to them.
When you click.
Yeah, when you click. And if they're willing to stay on with you, like I said, it's half the battle, right? But again, I'm only speaking from my business. I don't have, my phone's not ringing off the hook. I don't need 50 jobs a year. I mean, I do 5 or 6 and I don't want to do any more. I mean, that's more than enough. If I guess that's another thing too, like how many jobs do you want to do? How big are the jobs that you're going to do? How much can you handle, right? I mean, if you're doing $2-3 million jobs, like I know in my case, I have 4 guys, 4 site supers. I put 1 per job. Like I don't want to do any more than that. And then if we've got little fillers, I call the bathrooms, the kitchens and stuff like that, then I can float around and do that. And that keeps me busy. But in answer to your question, I mean, probably I would maybe do only 1 of those a day, right? And then it's up to them when you can actually call them. Because they want to work too, right? So you don't get to talk to them till probably after 5, right?
Man, if I can there's another side of customer service. So with hydronics and in-floor, which when I had my hydronics business did lots of, obviously I work with other companies now, to me it was at the other end. So for those of you who are familiar with in-floor systems, know, especially if it's a wet system, it's not going to balance out the first, it's not like a regular job where you can go in, set it, and you're done. So I would always say, obviously you price it in, but you would just say, I'm going to come back twice. Say we finish on a Thursday, I'd say, I'll come by Saturday, and then I'll always come by Monday. And the idea being is that type of customer service, they're not being left hanging. So if they have any question problems, sometimes, a zone could maybe, even on an in-floor, could airlock a little bit, that you maybe going to overpressurize the system, change the flow, whatever. But the thing being is that you're not done and then gone. They already know you're coming back, and that gives a bit of sense of comfort for them and confidence. So you do come back on the Saturday, you're only about an hour or so, maybe you check some floor temperatures, check this, and everything looks fine, and you're going to say, I'm just going to stop by Monday or Tuesday, make sure everything's okay. And yes, you have priced that in. They may have guessed it, may not, doesn't matter, but it's that customer service at the other end. So there's always different ways to do customer service, with the different aspects of the business. And I think one of the things is when you're getting something large and technical like that they're not feeling abandoned. And I can just say from my point of view, that's what's helped on our end.
In terms of prioritizing, though, you will know when a client is worth that 2.5-hour conversation, right? Like, you're just not going to do that with everybody. What I like to do, and I've done it forever, is take them for dinner. See what they're like. You get to talk, because as you said, it's talking about their lifestyle. We are here to build not just a room, a lifestyle. How often do they entertain? How many kids do they have? Do they have guests? Do they have elderly parents? Whatever. So, but also you can find out a lot about people, how they treat the waiter, right? Find out what kind of people they are. If they're cheap, if they're scrutinizing the bill, and just all that. But
know your worth.
Exactly. Yeah. I have some multi-millionaire clients that refuse to pay, to add a tip on the tax. It's like, okay, just leave the money and go. Like they're calculating, deducting the tax. And it's like, oh God. Just leave 20% of the gross and be done with it. Just, I don't have time to count that.
Bear, you got a question?
Yeah, so you were talking earlier about making kind of networking, like talking people face to face. I'm a big believer in that. So I don't own a company. I'm just a cement finisher, but I probably do like during the week 30 to 50.
You're not just a cement finisher.
You're
Nobody's just anything.
You're a concrete god. There you go.
But so I'm a big believer in that too. So even though I work a lot, and like just on Friday I was in Niagara Falls for the day, and I live in Bradford.
Wow.
So I drove 180 kilometers, worked, did 250 meters, a slab on grade, and drove home. But I'll still do about 30 to 50 phone calls a day, just networking with people.
Wow.
So that's how I've stayed busy my whole career. Is talking to
That's
people.
more than I get. Wow, that's incredible.
So are you worried though, because within the next 5 years or so, the wealth transfer I feel is going to go from guys like you to guys closer to my age. Like say you have kids who are going to take over your business, or you sell your business to somebody close to my age. Are you worried that that face-to-face and making phone calls is going to die? Because, like you said, technology has become a very big thing. Like, I remember 22 years ago when I started, like a cell phone on a job wasn't a thing. Nobody had a cell phone.
No, that's right.
But now everybody has one, and the internet, and social media, and so on and so forth.
So
I mean, you're gonna, well, when that happens, you're gonna be dealing with your own generation, right? So, I mean, that's gonna be up to you guys how you figure that out. I mean, we're old school. We didn't have, like we said, we didn't have all this technology and stuff like that. We had to talk face to face, shake hands, do that, all kind of that. But that's actually a great question because.
Yeah, but we're already seeing it. We see lots of people inherit money, and as you mentioned, the cockiness and the arrogance, and you're going to lose 30% of your inheritance
right.
because people just all of a sudden have a windfall, and you're dealing with people also that might not have long-term financial stability,
right?
Because they inherit $1 million, say, and they mortgage $1 million of it. So that's another thing you've got to watch. But you spoke about that.
I do think you need to have a plan.
Yeah.
You know, really and truly, when I started out at 18, I actually, in 1982 or 83, bought the second generation of the IBM PC in an off-brand, and it had a program on it called Files and Folders, which looks an awful lot today, Excel. And I kept track of all my customer calls in there, and I codified them. So, left a message was 1. And if I talked to them, that was a 2, and, et cetera. I systemized things so I didn't have to, because time's so precious, I didn't want to duplicate any of my time. I wanted to have a plan. And I tell people that I coach now, what do you want to do? And what's your vague idea on how you're going to get there? Just give me a starting point. And once I understand what you're trying to accomplish, my job is to help you get there. Right, and I deal with a great variety of businesses. Some of them just want to keep throwing marketing dollars at the wall, see what sticks. Some of them, it's all about, I'm going to do Facebook and Instagram and this, blah, blah, blah. And I go, what's your core message? I don't care what your platform is. If you don't have a good, solid core message, it's wasted, but you're using the technology well, that's great. But you got nothing to say. Have something to say. So having a plan and understanding that the technology will change in the way you deliver that, and keeping records of what you've done, your own business is your own laboratory. You learn from it, right? And we all get into situations. I've had situations with suppliers where when the guy finally retired, I was glad because I switched suppliers almost immediately. But I had such a good relationship, I would have felt bad taking the business away from the guy. Once it's just a corporation, I had no problem moving it across the street. Right? Relationships matter. They don't always matter, but they matter. And so having a plan, understanding how you're executing against the plan, having things that you measure to see if you're making progress on your plan, it's all basic stuff to conquer any market. And in our business, we did 25,000 transactions a month. In your businesses, I'm thinking 1 every 2 months. You know, I mean, it's wildly different, right? No. We also, when we sold the company, our largest customer was 0.5% of sales. 0.5%. We were bulletproof to an awful lot of things. I've been through at least, well, I'm listening to you guys talk, I think 5 or 6 market issues. 78, I opened up. 6 months later, they started rationing gas or doing something.
Yes, that's.
I called my dad and said, I'm an idiot. I've opened a business at the absolute worst time a person could ever.
21% interest rate.
Oh, yes, I had a 13% mortgage.
Yep.
18.
Right? So these are things that happen, and you find if you just keep moving your feet, you won't get any penalties. It's kind of a hockey thing, but it works in this case. You got to keep going, because if you stay there, the bad stuff's going to keep landing on you. So keep moving.
And you adapt to the market at that time.
And you adjust, because 2008 was its own thing. In 99 and 2000 was everybody worried about Y2K. Right. And what we did is, as a worldwide force, we drew business that those computer companies were going to get in 2002 and 1. We drew it into 1999 because everyone was absolutely convinced that the computers were going to shut down. When they didn't, everybody had a new system and the latest software. So now you had a lull in the market for up to 5 years before people needed to replace again. We stole the future out and brought it into 99, and we end up with a recession in 2001 and 2. Right? These are things that happen, and you just have to adjust. And what you want to make sure is that your cash flow and your cash reserves or your credit reserves are sufficient to get you through a bad period of time. I don't know if that's 6 months, you'll figure out what your own is, but it's a real thing. You have to do that. And don't mail it in, because I know guys that go golfing every Friday, and if they hit a good month on the 25th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, they're golfing. Go to work every day. Do an honest job for yourself. You know, that really makes a difference. That if you work a little bit every day, you never have to work a hard bit any day. And those contractors, the salesmen and whatever that always seem to take the last couple of days of the month off, they're the ones that got into trouble.
That's true.
Say goodbye to clipboards and outdated blueprints. Quotograph is redefining construction with real-time job site intelligence. Turn simple videos into automated safety reports, upgrade to dynamic digital takeoffs, and cut site visits from hours to minutes with powerful remote tools. Trusted by trades, supers, and project managers, Quotograph is smarter, faster, safer future of construction. Visit them at www.quotograph.io or follow them under social at quotograph.io or email at tajbrah, that's TAJBRAH, at quotograph.io to learn more. Quotograph, don't just document the site, redefine it. This message is proudly supported by the Construction Life.
Yeah, for sure.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sheila, and I'm from Simon Stone. I think this is probably one of the controversial questions for the gents. As we all know, like what's going on in the world right now with inflation, the economics, politics. You know, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I think we are all aware of what's going on in, you know, current events all around the globe. Just a question for this gentleman: how do we separate politics and business? And if so, I want to know how you do it, or what's your advice? Are you the type of person who would stay away from politics, or are you the brave ones that are going to speak out their truth of what's going on in like the current events with inflation, politics, right? Especially right now, Canada is in dipshit. So is that something that we separate with the business, or
So I'll answer it this way.
Core message.
Everything is a condition. You can not separate the weather, supply chain issues. There will always be something and multiple somethings. So you just have to adapt. You really have to adapt. Don't leave yourself vulnerable. Like, manage your cash flow and manage your accounts receivable. Like, you don't ever expose yourself to stuff you can't survive. But it's going to change, and if you wait, tomorrow will change and be different again. So I just never worried about it. I always looked at each problem and said, where's the opportunity in this? And I look for the opportunities.
Hang on a sec. So I want to hear from the other three gentlemen. But have you guys recently changed the way you're working because of the current political climate? Yes or no? Just say yes or no.
No.
No. No?
No.
No? No?
Where I can, yes.
So you have, okay, where you can.
Yeah, so
that's
in
all I
other
want to
words,
say.
there's
So you guys can discuss it
certain
with them.
products that you're handling that they're integrated between both sides of the border. It's not possible, but if there's a possibility and there are certain things that we can actually support more of the Canadian division or an actual Canadian product, then absolutely.
Sorry, who's that? Oh, Anthony.
Antonio from Aquastar. Thank you guys for teaching us everything you're teaching us today. The question I have that I'm struggling with is, what advice do you have for somebody who's trying to veer more off being on the tools and working on the business as opposed to working in the business?
Have a good team. Have a good team. Honestly, encourage them. But everybody struggles with this because it's all about people in the end. Somebody has to do the work.
Yeah.
So if I can understand, so for example, it's your business, and you're trying to be more off of the tools on the office side of things, as less being on the tools. Does that take that right? Okay.
Like, I have good teams that I can trust, but...
So my son-in-law is a classic example. I hope he doesn't watch this podcast because he'll probably have his feelings hurt.
Nobody watches this podcast.
I won't let him. But there's a classic example. He really needs to be running the business more. And I'm not sure if you know Aaron, but Aaron's a good person too. Aaron Boland's a good person to hook up with to help you out. Is the fact that you've got to give up that phone, let's say, and this is what my son-in-law is one of them. And we keep saying, every time you answer that phone, you're stopping what you're doing, and either he's got good people around him, etc. But he doesn't. I don't think he's got. Well, he doesn't. He doesn't have the office end. He just is afraid to invest in the office end, and he can't have his feet on both sides of the trenches where he's at. And I get why he's that way, and that's probably why you're that way. And and again, if you talked with Aaron. He may be one that can help you steer and how to do that. That would be my suggestion.
But that's common
I was going to say it's not uncommon.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Not uncommon.
With every small business, too, especially under 10. Like under 10 people, it's hard to just be in an office and manage things. And it depends on what you do as well. You're waterproofing, so it better be bloody done right. And so you have to have a good team, as you say. We all know that. How many times have we had to fix things that
I would add this to it.
God.
I use this on a whiteboard all the time. I draw a pie, okay? And I say, okay, so let's label the pieces of the pie. So one is sales, one's accounting, one's IT, one's the labor that makes the business work. Every one of us is interested in and good at one or two or three pieces of pie. Bingo. You got to hire good people to cover the other because the successful business demands the whole pie be satisfied. So if you're not the guy to do it, you look at it and say, okay, how do I divvy this job up? Do I hire a salesperson? Do I hire a strategic person? Do I engage a consultant for a short while? Do I have somebody that could just give me 1 month and show me the results, and that will lead me, down the right path? But the business demands a whole pie. You can be good. You don't have to be excellent at each piece, but you must be good. And then the ones that you're really good at, I mean, try and stick to that, because that's where you
know
add
your
value.
strengths.
Know your worth.
Know your strength too, and if you're no good at accounting or whatever, hire it out. That's it. Yeah, we can't run the whole pie.
No.
I can't. I don't know.
Okay, we got a question over here. Paul?
No.
Okay, so I just want to preface this question by saying your answers won't hurt my feelings at all, okay? I'm coming from, I've got a good feeling for the room, and I appreciate, Manny, you having kind of a different perspective of hosting someone different on the podcast. Our podcast was
God, look at the time.
And I know the importance of quality of work, face-to-face, the craftsmanship itself from everybody that's in the room. But I'm just curious from you guys, if you guys have employed any type of AI automations to the operational sides of your business?
No.
No?
No.
Warren, no?
No.
No, I haven't. No.
No. Bob, no?
It doesn't apply to me at this moment, but I will say this. I'm working with businesses that are looking to do this. The problem that I get from it is it feels like a magic wand. I'm going to wave AI at it, and it's going to solve the problem. I tell people, just in 5 seconds, tell me what your answer is intended to be and how we will use AI to go down that path. Because if you don't know what the answer is, AI is going to get you there faster and more uselessly. So, have an idea. AI is a tool.
But it appeals to people's laziness.
Well,
that's what it does, I think.
Great of you.
Is he hurting your feelings?
What's that? No, it appeals to people's laziness to just want the instant answer. So it's in that way you're going to sell lots of it, I think.
And if I can just as
Yes,
a
please.
very strange, quick aside, but and I've just noticed recently, like literally this past week, if you Google something, it'll come up that AI information, and the classic, and it's strange. But the question someone had, I was Googling something for a reason, for someone was teaching at Mohawk, and it had to do with setting, or the effect that the pressure reducing valve would have on the hydronic system. PRV is the short form for pressure reducing valve. PRV is also short form for pressure relief valve. And the whole answer had to do with the pressure relief valve. Because AI picked up on PRV, and this whole long explanation on Google about the system was all based on a pressure reducing valve, and the actual issue was a pressure relief valve, and the actual situation was a pressure reducing valve. So and I've just noticed literally the last week that if you're Googling something, that the first things come up and it'll say AI, and so there's just a classic example. Someone's got to be very careful that whatever information they're pulling off, this is why I'll only pull information that's off a manufacturer's website. I will never ever pull anything off that's, Joe's Wood Burning Stoves and Hydronic Emporium, because you don't know what information you're getting. So.
Okay, I think we got one or two more questions.
Okay,
Joe?
No, we got one comment.
Comment. All right, go.
I'm the audible.
I'll get to you, Joe. I'll get to you.
I have a small comment. Might answer some questions and also back up everything you guys are saying. When I first started, an old timer who had a very large business and I was doing his work, he gave me one piece of advice, and it was take care of the people who make you money. And that's what I've been using since day one. And then it helped me scale away from the tools because I gained confidence on the guys there. And also gave me the opportunity to land more business using someone else as the face, because they interacted face to face with the customer where I couldn't be there. So
I think you mean don't build with people that won't carry bricks. That's the thing. They've got to be with you. Right?
Go ahead, Joe. Just yell.
Hello. As a person, obviously, same age group and upbringing and experience in business. Did you or do you struggle with, because I'm old school, referrals, or you shake your hand and it's right. The client with the behind and the on. That's just how I grew up in that, right? So today I so I hit those ceilings to start advertising. I go into moments of anxiety. I see money flying out of it. And I start going back to the old school mentality. Do you guys experience that? Have you, or do you?
Oh, yes. We all take some.
Yeah, no, for sure. But again, like I'm too old to learn anything right now. So, I mean, I'm a general contractor, construction management, whatever. So I still make phone calls to the architects that I've dealt with, take them out for lunch or dinner. Because I mean, that's the only way that I really know. But I think it's the only way when you're reaching, and I mean, to me, an architect is who gives me the business, right? So you want to sit down with them, and your designers, your architects, and and whoever, even if you're a sub-trade, like and for all the sub-trades out here, like you should be doing the same to the GC or to the construction manager. I mean, that's who you should be going after, right? And again, yeah, sure, you struggle with it. I know. I mean, it's hard, but I think that I just go back to what works, and that has always worked for me. You find a new architect that you want to work with, start phoning. He's not gonna answer you probably for the first 6 months, and hopefully you'll get a meeting, and away you go. But I think you have to do that. Like if you can sub-trade, right? You have to go after the GCs and the construction managers, project managers, and win their loyalty, right? And I think one that just made a comment about the advice that you got. I think that boils down to loyalty of your trades, right? And
That's right,
once you build your team, which is your trades,
but advertising. Sorry, you go ahead.
Okay, here's what I go with: good people hang around good people, and as soon as you know that one person is a trusted person, ask them for everyone they deal with. It's really simple. And Brafasco, I opened 25 locations. 25 times I dropped into a new market, right? I had to talk to a variety of people, and I might talk to my existing customers and suppliers and say, who do you know in the Peterborough area? Who do you know in Kingston? And as soon as I found one trusted person, and it could be the real estate agent, I like the real estate agent, and they have people they deal with, then I leverage that into the creation of a new team. And that got me further, faster, with less hassle, less uncertainty.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just one.
Advertising, it was just important to say, you better have your core message, as you said. Because even if it's advertising on Instagram, how often do they just pop up and you scroll through them? It better get your attention. So whatever you are making or selling, you better make sure that it's there.
It has to even be better today.
In a second.
Yeah.
Like just boom. So just bear that in mind if you're going to advertise.
Manny, if I could add to that
Yeah,
just
sure.
for a second. So here's the journey. In 1998, we started TV, okay, Barrie Station. They were a CBC affiliate. There was only so many stations around. There were only so many channels. We started with what we could afford, which was after midnight, Flipper, the Beverly Hillbillies, whatever.
When we're winding down.
The estimate at the time was that an industrial sales call cost $300. I could get in front of 300 customers for $20. I needed to get in front of them. The magic number, they say, is 7. It doesn't matter what the magic number is. I needed to be memorable enough that they knew it was not just entertaining, it was us. And this is a younger crowd. How many of you remember a Brafasco commercial?
I do.
Right? So we came up with something, and this is a really weird thing, is I'm in the studio up in Barrie. There's a guy named Paul Archer. Paul was the savior in this. He was the producer. And I took up 250 pounds of nuts and bolts of all sizes. And we sat in the studio, the two of us, and played with it like a giant Meccano set. We made great visuals. And what we came up with was lining up all the different bolts in the increase in diameter and length. And then we filmed it, and then we took one away at a time. And there's a technical reason, because you might bump something that's already fixed in the image. So you do it backwards. And then Paul, in his magic of editing, fixed that for us. But at the end of the whole thing, he said, you've got a 4-inch hex nut there, weighs 15 pounds. He says, I see that, I see a 3.5 and a 3, and I'm a drummer on the weekends. He says, I'd like to drum beat these things. I went, I have no idea what that looked like, but sounds interesting. So we got a black drape, and he shoved his arms through, and he had 1.5 by 12 bolts there, this drumsticks. And he gave them bang, bang, bang. And Paul's about 5'7". He ran out of strength after about 3 goes, and you could see the wobble. So I said, let me give it a go. I have no sense of rhythm, unfortunately. But by then, once they wore me out, they put Paul back in, and his final take is the one we put in the commercials. And we did it to be mildly entertaining for the people that weren't going to buy the stuff, positively effective like crazy for the ones that were going to buy our stuff, and for the ones who were going to tell someone about it. We won those battles. That's what we had to win. Don't turn anyone against us, but create raving fans for the ones that would recognize it. And then the sound they asked me about, and I said, so when I clang my wood stove door, I live in the country, when I clang the wood stove door, I just imagine a sound that is a wood stove door the size of a bank vault door. That's what they came up with. And I asked them to put a resonance in it, and I said, I want it to hang around a little bit. I said, the Beatles have a song called Day in the Life, and there's a piano chord at the end. That's what I want it to do. I want it to sound like a big bang, and then hang around a little bit. That's the signature sound. 20 years later, that's what we had. The trick was, we were buying an audience. So a Sunday morning fishing show was an audience of 900 people. That was it. But 300 of them were males, 25 to 54, and they gave me those spots for free because I did Hockey Night in Canada. We navigated the stuff that was available, but the problem was this. Cable was coming. Now we have 100 channels, we have Netflix, we have Disney, we have whatever. So you have to have a plan. You have to specifically say, this is my expectation for these marketing dollars. And then experiment. So we can go on about that, but don't throw money at it.
That's it.
Don't throw money at it. It won't come back. Every time you take a toonie and you put it out there, it's got to come back with a friend.
If you are a business owner, subcontractor, or client, you know that trust in this industry is huge, and Contract App helps build that. Not only do they get a solid contract for your projects, they built in an e-signature tool for you and your clients. The contract dashboard also has a digital live log that records every step of the project, plus a rate and review system for both the contractor and the client. This means more transparency and accountability for everyone. Stop running your business on an estimate and a handshake. Protect yourself with Contract App. Book your free demo or sign up today at www.contractapp.ca and use promo code TCL to get your first month for free. This message is proudly supported by The Construction Life.
Okay, our last question of the day.
That's the last one, then we'll wrap it up.
All right, last question.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old, so probably like the youngest in the building, maybe second youngest anyways. Basically, my question is, like, you guys have been in the game for a long time with the trades and everything, and coming up, I'm sure you started around my age too, but you see that in this room, it's like a lot of the people coming up with when you were my age were still interested in the trades and still wanted to do that work, but you look now, there really isn't much people my age in this room. So how do you feel about, like, in the trades, just young people essentially not wanting to do the work and not respecting the contractors, and how is this country going to continue to grow and develop if people don't want to come do that work, you know?
I think that you said it earlier, I think, when the computer age or whatever all came in the 80s, that's like when I was in when I was in the trade, started the trade in 70, 73, it was a big thing. Like all of us went, and I started at $2.92 an hour. That was hot. That was
You were lucky.
I was lucky, right? A journeyman made $5.80. So I got 50% of what, and that was a union rate. And but all guys like your age, I mean, I was 18. Everybody was into trades. Like we had a trade school. Like
Every high school had it.
Every high school, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm from the Bloor West area, so we had Western Tech, which we called the factory.
They had wood shop, mechanics,
had it all,
everything.
Right? Central
And
Tech,
a rifle
Northern
range.
Tech,
Yeah.
all the places, right?
It's fun.
But they don't have that anymore. Like so. What incentive is there for you guys that don't want to go, and women that don't want to go to university? Half my buddies that went to university came to me later looking for a job, right?
That's right.
And I mean, now obviously the money's far better starting out into a trade. And look at I think we're in trouble.
But you can live by example too, I think. Just do it.
I've
and
said it for
attract people.
20 years, I think we're in trouble. And then just like we can't all sit here and bitch and complain about who's coming here from other countries to do the work. Because we don't want to do the work. So, when we see them coming from, South America and everywhere else, these guys want to work, right? So, hats off to you guys that are, here at 20 years old and wanting to do this, because we're hopefully you can get this energized to get more of your age group and your generation in this, because it's a great living. You get what you put, like you will make a great living. And if you go that much further and work that much harder, you're going to have a great life, right?
Yeah, I kind of see a different side of this. So, as you know, I've been in the trade over 40 years. We've always had a shortage of trades. We had a shortage of trades in the 70s. We had a shortage of trades in the 80s, 90s, whatever. I think the problem is that we're starting to, and it's an expectation problem, which is an issue. Not everybody's cut out for the trades. Not everybody's cut out to be a nurse. Not everybody's cut out to be an accountant, et cetera, et cetera. So in Ontario, I can't speak for the rest of the country. In Ontario, they've been pumping pre-apprenticeships through like crazy. And I know because when I was at Mohawk College, when pre-apprenticeship, the style that was paid for by the government, I helped create that program. I was the coordinator for it. I did all the interviewing of the students and all that stuff. So we had lots of pre-apprenticeship going through there. Then the colleges picked up on the pre-apprenticeship. That's about 8 or 9 months, but the students pay to be there. It's not a true apprenticeship, but the whole idea, it's not true pre-apprenticeship, sorry. The real pre-apprenticeship was you got taught basic, and you would get credit for basic if you had the attendance, et cetera. Part of that was a placement for a couple of months. I think it was for a month. First group we put through was no problem. The second group that went through, and I had set up a lot of companies through my relationships that would take them, and that second class burned a lot of bridges on me, because suddenly it was the expectation, it's a placement, I want to be paid. It's a placement, I want a van. It's a placement, I don't dig. And I think what's been happening, like for example, right now at Mohawk College, basic level, there's 60 basic apprentices in plumbing. When I was in trade school in the 80s, that we would maybe have an advanced class of 20, and then the next literally intake was maybe a basic class, intermediate. In the mid-2000s, we started running doubles. So we would have a double basic, double intermediate, and so now, many years, advanced has been 40, intermediate is 40, basic has been 20, 40, or 60. We're pumping them through. They are being really pushed that, yeah, the trades is great, you're all gonna become millionaires. And therein lies the problem, is that we've always had a shortage of trades, we will always have a shortage of trades, but they're pushing too many people into it that shouldn't be in the trades because they don't understand what the trades are. They don't understand you have to work. And this is not a slag against that generation, but working in the trades is different than working in an accountant's office or something. You literally have to pay your dues. Another problem that's going on is that these apprentices are being told by, and not just young people, people in their 40s and 50s in the trades, if you don't get signed on a 6 months leave, go somewhere else. And that to me is just bonkers. I was a laborer for 5 years before I got signed on, okay, because there was 2 people in front of me. But during that time, I got my gas fitter's ticket. Then I got my endorsement fusion welding, high pressure gas and underground. Then I got my weld technician's ticket. From the moment I was signed to I wrote my CFQ was 18 months because I was credited for all that time because of my education stuff. 6 months is not enough time for a lot of reasons. They can't take, the ratios are 1-to-1 in plumbing. I can't speak for the other trades. The ratios are 1-to-1. They cannot take on more apprentices because the 5th years haven't been ticketed. Why are the 5th years not being ticketed? There's some real problems passing the CFQ. Why is there problems passing the CFQ? That's a whole nother discussion. So part of the problem is that there are tons getting into it, but they're being shoved into it. Some of them shouldn't be going into it, but their parents are telling them. And yeah, there's a thing of entitlement. You talk about the wages. When I started the trade, minimum wage was $3.40 an hour. This plumbing company, it was a small family business, offered me a labor's position for $7 an hour. I couldn't get up the road quick enough to start there. Like, that was amazing. We worked our frickin' butts off. We worked 5-6 days a week, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hours a day. But you paid your dues. Every time you were sent out to the van to get a fitting, that was an education. Every time you coiled up an extension cord, that was an education. And that's the stuff that they don't get, and it's probably not their fault because they're not being told to understand what an apprenticeship is. An apprenticeship is you are joined to the hip to somebody and you're being taught. I can't again speak for the other trades, but if anybody in here thinks that when you see a plumbing van going down the road, there's a journey person in it, no way. It's a 2nd, 3rd, 4th year apprentice, and they shouldn't be doing it, but that's the reality. That's what's going on. And I'm not faulting anybody, we have to look at things differently. My personal opinion would be, you've got to change the ratio to 1-to-2 in plumbing. I would like to see a basic apprentice is allowed to a 5th year. Why not? The only difference between a 5th year and a journey person is a ticket. There's no reason why that a 1st year could not be with a 5th year. That's going to open up the floodgates. We've got to figure out what's going on in the CFQ. I've got some opinions about that. So I think there's a lot being funneled in, but it's like a nozzle. They're being squeezed in, and very few are kind of coming out the other end. So
that's a college of trades problem.
No, it's not college of trades problem. It's
the bureaucracy.
No, it's everything. It's everything.
I know in the electrical field they're complaining that their apprentices are just not produced fast enough.
Well, but again, it's the fact that everyone's telling get into a trade, get into a trade. They're coming in, they don't understand the work involved, right? They don't understand. And some people, they say, are just not meant for the trades.
Well,
but they're being sent into the trades. So there's a huge, it's an apple tree. And there's so many apples on there that are the problem. But I would not panic because I'm 63. We had a shortage of trades in the 70s. We had a shortage of trades in the 80s. We'll always have a shortage of trades. It's just reality.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I want to thank you very much for sharing everything. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. This would be fun to do in reverse because we could learn so much from you guys. Every one of you know things that we don't.
Well, there's a couple
Seriously, you can do that.
I want to give away some gifts, so
there you go.
Whoever's here, you got to be here for it. So you guys are gonna pick, right? So I want to first give away the Zets here. Thank you very much. Where's Pete? Sorry? What do you mean you want to pick? Who's this? Who's this? What are you rigging? Is this a liberal way of giving things away? What's going on?
I just picked a guy.
Manny won everything.
Well, I had to be the one that says the word liberal. Who's this? Larry? He's not here. Larry Lagamba. No, he's not here. Joe Fernandez, right there. One of the tall guys. Thank you very much, Pete, for donating that. I appreciate it. Really, there you are. You'll love that. Cutting board? Cutting board? He's still rolling up there? Cutting board, the first one, Greg. Generations, where's Greg? Generations. Greg, there you go. I got you some wood. Here you go. Here, Mike. Mike's right there. Thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, Mike, that's Mike's right there. Mike, you remember me? Yeah. Mike and I went to the Flying Saucer. It was almost like a Tinder date, no? A little bit?
I have fun with it.
It was a great place. It was this. I thought the kids were supposed to be picking this. Alex is not here. Alex is not here. Not that Alex. All labor Alex. This really is liberal. Fuck. Mario, Crane. Where? Mario's not here. Florian's not here. What's going on? Where is he? He could have won something. Mufasa! Rub it! Get some wood! Get some wood! See? That one was conservative. Alright.
Is my name in the box?
It should be. That's nobody.
That's fine.
Steve's not here. Timberkits, he's not here.
Come on, Brian.
And Clifford, did Clifford show up? Clifford Parker. No. What's going on? Megan. Well, let's do the wash tool. Who's doing Cassandra? Who's doing it? Who is it?
Jennifer Morgan.
Jen.
Jennifer Morgan.
Who's doing?
Brandon Moyer.
Brandon. There you go. There you go. That's great. Thanks very much, guys. We still got a couple hours. You guys can mingle, shoot the shit. There's plenty of food still. There's coffee. I'm having a coffee. Gentlemen, thank you. Bob, Jim, John, Warren, thank you very much, guys. Wealth of knowledge. I always like speaking to you guys, listening to you guys. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.